right, so I'm going to read the last part of where we left off last week just to remind you. And remember, Mrs. Dickinson will do some of the demonstrations, so be good listeners and watch what she's doing. Over a long, long time, as the Earth slowly cooled down, the heaviest particles from the Earth's surface sank to the middle of the Earth. The medium heavy particles from the Earth's surface sank not quite so deep. The largest particles from the Earth's surface stayed near the Earth's surface. The particles sank according to their weight, following the nature of things on Earth. Over millions of years, as the Earth's surface slowly cooled, it began to harden. As it hardened, it formed a thin crust like the crust on a loaf of bread. But underneath the crust, the Earth was still made up of smoldering molten rock, boiling, churning, and red hot. The molten rock inside the Earth was so hot it began to expand and get bigger, because according to the nature of things in the universe and the Earth, hot things expand. So the red hot molten rock began to expand, pushing up toward the surface of the Earth, pushing up through the new thin crust of the Earth. The red hot molten rock pushed so hard that it tore great holes in the thin crust of the Earth. Then the molten rock forced itself through these holes and gushed out into the sky and onto the surface of the Earth, making huge noise and showing a great display of red hot color. These holes in the Earth's crust, which spewed out molten rock, formed all over the Earth and gushed for many, many years. Today, these belching, gushing holes that spew molten rock from inside the Earth are called volcanoes. Good. Some of you predicted we would talk about that this morning. The molten rock that erupts from volcanoes and flows out onto the Earth's surface is called lava.
Claire, will you assist me? All right, so what do you think this represents? Lava. We are going to show and demonstrate how this happens. So she's going to pour this into the bowl of the Earth. Keep pouring, keep pouring, keep pouring, keep pouring. There. Oh.
Volcanoes and so much of a volcano.
Something else curious was happening in the belching volcanoes. Out of the volcanoes erupted not only molten rock, but also an invisible kind of matter that couldn't be seen even if any human had been there to watch. Nowadays, these invisible kinds of matter are called gases. These gases were floating up into the sky. For a long time, the volcanoes on Earth erupted, belching out gases and molten rock. Slowly, the molten rock began to cool down. As the molten rock cooled down, it began to turn into solid matter, rock that is very hard. It is the nature of things that melted objects will turn solid if they cool down enough. The same way melted butter or melted candle wax will turn solid when it cools. So there were three kinds of matter on Earth: solids, liquids, and gases. And this is still true today.
So we see here, what do you think this one represents? We're looking at
The
solids,
solid.
liquids, and gases. Katie,
Solid.
this is the solid. You can actually pick it up, right?
Yep.
It's solid. What do you think this one is?
Just liquid.
Liquid. And what do you think this one is? This is really curious.
Gas.
But I don't see anything.
Because it's invisible.
It's invisible. Gases are invisible. Very good.
Right. As the Earth continued to cool, its crust wrinkled and cracked. Water below the Earth's surface escaped through the cracks. Water vapor, which is the gas that water makes when it is warmed, was absorbed into the air and rose above the Earth. This process is called evaporation. Then something amazing happened. These invisible gases began to turn visible. As the water vapor cooled in the sky, the first clouds of water droplets appeared. This process is called condensation. When clouds move up higher or pass through a colder region, raindrops form and the clouds get heavier. It is the nature of things that very heavy clouds will drop rain or snow depending on the temperature of the air that they pass through. Long ago, the cool raindrops fell to the hot earth and helped to cool it. For a long time, the earth was too hot for the rain to stay. It would turn to water vapor again, and more rain clouds would form. Again, when the clouds became heavy, they dropped more rain. The rain poured and poured as the earth continued to cool. Eventually, the rain began to stay on the earth and to fill low-lying areas in the earth's surface that were shaped like bowls. The rain that fell for millions of years filled these low-lying areas and other areas until there was so much rainwater on earth that the first oceans were formed. If anyone had been there to see the earth at that time, it probably would have looked like one giant ocean. But there was no one there to see the earth because life had not yet come to earth. No people, animals, or plants, not even germs. The universe had formed out of the nothing something, and then the earth formed out of a cloud of space dust and gas. But no life had yet come to earth. How life came to earth is a whole other story.
That concludes our first grade lesson, O to 5.